Hello world. How y'all doing this evening? It's your boy OTM underscore Coach B, and this is Out Dot the Dot Mud podcast. First of all, I just want to say my apologies. I know it's been a minute. I think it's been over a month since I've jumped on into the actual podcast. Just a lot of moving and shaking. It ain't no excuses, but it's a lot of moving and shaking going on. When you're an independent sole proprietor, you gotta take some time and reflect on the brand and try to do things to move forward in the right mind in the right space. So what I mean, it's been a lot going on, but that ain't going to take away from me still trying to drop these gems and get on here and kick this game to y'all and kind of brief everybody on what's been going on with me in the world and things of that nature. So that's what we're here to do tonight. First of all, always going to say that I appreciate the love and support, and from Instagram to YouTube to TikTok. You can follow me on all social media platforms. Out the mud podcast. My personal page, OTM underscore Coach B, where I'll be sharing content and everything of that nature. Now, I always say, we appreciate the shares, the likes, the subscribes. You feel me? And just, continue to do it. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely hard navigating this social media space without, jumping on a table or doing something crazy or saying something crazy, trying to do things the non-millennial way, if you will. But hey, we're here and we're here to dominate, with whatever little space and carve out our little legacy that we can do it. So you know what I'm saying? I make sure I do that. So what I wanted to do tonight, here's the game plan for the night, just to lay it out for y'all. So it's a couple things. For one, I wanted to come on here and just kind of brief everybody on what's been going on with, the brand. You know what I'm saying? Things that I'm looking forward to and things that I'm seeking moving forward to help the brand grow. We're going to definitely talk about the NFL season, since we're kind of getting into the second quarter of the season. We're 8 weeks in, so we're in that kind of first quarter, ending the first quarter, going into the second quarter of the season. You know what I'm saying? And then we're going to touch on college. We'll talk about some, real things that are going on. We'll always try to drop a couple gems for y'all. As far as just personally, things that, I feel as though are good as affirmations, if you will, for the ones that's going to watch this. Hopefully it touch you in a way, what I'm saying, to help you with whatever you're going through. And then we'll end it with some current events, some things that are going on in the world. I got a real important topic I want to hit on with something that just recently happened. You know what I'm saying? So we'll touch on that. But that's what it is. Like I said, I'm not going to take a lot of your time. I'm going to try to keep it within 30 to 45 minutes and hit on the topics that we need to hit on. Again, hit that subscribe button. If you haven't, you know what I'm saying, Out.the.mud podcast. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, the same brand, same handle. And go back through the videos, go back through the interviews, man. Is there anything that you picked out that you want to touch on? I do take comments, you know what I'm saying? If anybody has an opinion they want to hop on and share their opinion, I'm more than happy to do that. We take recommendations too. Remember, this is not my podcast, this is our podcast. So, make sure y'all if anybody who hasn't been in touch with the podcast, if you've been in touch with the podcast and you like the content, you like the discussions, make sure you share with somebody and say, yo, like, this is a good move for you, especially if you know that they, doing a thing and they got it out of the mud. You know what I'm saying? They got a brand, whether it's sole proprietor, LLC, clothing brand, their coach, you know what I'm saying? It's somebody in fashion, whatever, you know what I mean? We here for the people. So we just trying to build this brand and pay it forward. But I'm gonna jump right in. I mean, I think the first thing I want to do is just speak on, like I said, just brief everybody on the brand and what's going on. You know what I'm saying? We still rolling, we still posting on Instagram. If you haven't followed the Instagram page, Out.the.mud podcast, you'll hear me say that a lot. A lot of new interviews that we're trying to get in the works for coming up here for the new season. Especially when it comes to the interviews, I want to do a little bit more traveling. Especially now that we're in bowl, we're getting to the latter part of college football, get into bowl season, and hopefully take some trips and do some podcasts at some bowl games and things of that nature. But the one thing I really wanted to hit on tonight is and this goes to everybody that's watching this joint. That's an independent sole proprietor as myself. meaning that, you kind of are balancing, your business solo, dolly. It's tough. It's definitely tough. It's has its moments of adversities, and what I'm saying, you're only one voice, and you gotta, really put your foot on your brand, and market it, independently, which is tough. Um, which that part I'm not really too worried about. That part doesn't really bother me too much. But I will say this: it does kind of get a little lonely up here. It gets a little lonely up here. Um, you know what I mean? I got a lot to talk about for those who watch the old episodes. The reason why I even started the podcast was because I talk to myself a lot, and I'm like, well, if I'm gonna be talking to myself a lot, I might as well go on camera and, you feel me, make a podcast out of it, and state how I feel. But it gets lonely up here. It really do. And most of the successful podcasts, they have that guy or that female that, the brand is functioning through, and then you have that co-host, that person that brings that other voice. So I say all that to say this: I'm interested in having a co-host. I think it's time. I think that's where the brand is going next. Someone that shares the same voice, mission, energy, and that we can just come up here on a weekly basis, or a bi-weekly basis, and just break bread and just bring topics to the table, and what I'm saying, we can discuss it on the pod, and we can, you know, go and bounce ideas off each other, or we can go up here and debate. It don't even matter. But I think it's time for a co-host. I think it's time to get somebody else on here that's willing to understand what we trying to do, and that I'm willing. I'm anybody that knows me. I'm the most unselfish person. Um, and I'm kind of like D Wade when he was with the Heat. You know what I mean? Once LeBron came, he was like, "Look, this is your team. You know what I'm saying? You take it as far as you can take it." So that's where I'm at with it. You know what I mean? I'm D Wade, just waiting on that, that LeBron to come through, and let's take this thing to the top. As long as we doing it for the right reasons, as long as we doing it, what I'm saying, for the right intentions, which obviously we will, because I'm screening everybody. You ain't just about to come up on here and start talking crazy. Um, there will be a process to this, but yeah, I think it's time. I think it's time to get that second voice, just to pay it forward, and just to increase. I know y'all don't want to keep hearing me every week, and on that same note, and I'm not going to try to jump around from topic to topic, but I will get more consistent with doing weekly podcasts. We're jumping on here and doing weekly podcasts with y'all, dropping content for y'all, and making sure that, what I'm saying, whatever. Because I know one thing about this is like, when you in class or you somewhere and they like, well, ask the question. Because if you ask the question, it's probably a question that somebody else is thinking about. They just too afraid to ask it. Well, I'm going to jump on here and I'm going to speak on stuff just like I will tonight. And I know I'm not the only one that's feeling that way or thinking that way. I'm just going, I got the platform to get on here and say it. So that's what we're going to do. But yeah, for anybody who might be interested in getting on camera, who might be interested in, doing a podcast thing, if I know you, great. You know what I'm saying? That helps with the rapport. But even if I don't, like I said, it's a screening process with everything. Cause this is it's an intimidating space. When that red light come on and it's going, and it's up. So you feel me? We'll do a little screening process, make sure you're comfortable, male or female. And yeah, we'll do it like that. So, that's the first thing. I wanted to get that out of the way. So OTM is officially looking for a co-host. But let's go ahead and jump into this NFL stuff, because I got a lot of things to kind of talk about, and cover with that. We'll start with the NFL first. So it's 8 weeks in now. Everybody know I'm an Eagles fan. We're 6-1 right now. We had a bad outing against the Jets, which happens. You know what I'm saying? I knew we weren't going to go undefeated, but I think it helped our locker room, helped our team. But what I wanted to speak on is just a couple things going into week 8. Now, what I want to do with this is just talk about the division leaders. Because again, this is a sports podcast as well. I want to touch on sports. That's my background. That's what I'm comfortable with. But that, and I feel like, what I'm saying, I would love to get some dialogue with some people that's going to see this and have their own opinion. So week 8 coming up this week, and I just kind of want to go over the division leaders. a little bit. I want to talk about some things that I'm seeing, you know what I'm saying, and give, my weekly picks. I'm gonna start doing that more, is giving my weekly picks. So right now, as week 8 stands, we got division leaders in each conference in the AFC, and we'll start with the AFC first. We got the Dolphins, we got the Chiefs, we got the Ravens, we got the Jags. The Dolphins in the AFC East, the Chiefs in the AFC West. We got the Ravens in the AFC North and the Jags in the AFC South. Now, the reason why I like this is because I had the Jacksonville Jaguars. For y'all that don't know, I had the Jacksonville Jaguars in the AFC Championship game this year, going against the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm sticking to that. I mean, I truly believe that when you have an owner, a coach, and a quarterback, there's the big three in your organization, you have the keys and the success to be competitive and to win. And I think they have that. I think they got a good owner. I think they got a solid owner who has, through free agency, through the draft, has built this organization to be who they are. They understand who they are, and they stick to what they know. Physical football. We're going to run the ball in between the tackles. We'll throw it when we need to. Um, and they draft well, and they do the necessary things in free agency to help them win. And I think that as an NFL organization, I mean, if you can do that, you'll be successful, and not even in the NFL, but anywhere in any profession. And then when you talk about the head coach, I mean, Doug Peterson goes without saying. Former Super Bowl champion coach with the Eagles. Shout out to him, Dougie P. And, you know what I'm saying, he's a guy that's been around a few times. He knows the NFL backwards and forwards. He knows what it takes to win. And that's how he's coaching his quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, who to me is one of those guys that's kind of under the radar. He just gets the job done. And he knows he's kind of crossed that bridge into being a professional. He's understanding how to play the game. He doesn't make too many mistakes. He's not a guy that's going to cost you a win. He's not a guy he may not win you a game, but he's damn sure not going to lose you a game. And if you can have that type of guy in your locker room and as the quarterback, that to me, most of the Super Bowl, at least the guys that have competed in the Super Bowl and that have been on that level in the AFC and NFC championship games, they have that guy as the signal caller. You think about Matthew Stafford, you think about, even a guy like Kirk Cousins, when they played in the NFC championship game a few years ago. You think about a guy like, I mean, Trevor Lawrence from last year, Jared Goff. I mean, these guys, they're not the home run hitting quarterbacks. They're not the guys. They're not going to throw over 300 and 400 yards in games, but they're going to do the necessary things to keep your team in games and to not lose you a game. And I think that's Trevor Lawrence right now, and that's who he needs to be. That's okay. Ain't nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? That's who you need to be. So I like the Jags. I like the Ravens. They beat up on the Lions last week, and I was tight about that because I took the Lions. But Lamar, I think is doing his thing, coming into his own with Todd Monken. Shout out to Todd TM, former UGA offensive coordinator. The Dolphins, I think, is going to end up running away with the AFC East. They do have to beat the Bills again though, because the last time they played the Bills, they got smoked. And the Bills, the jury's still out on the Bills, even though they're playing tonight. And then I think the Chiefs are the class of the AFC. And then the NFC, you got the Eagles in the East, you got the Niners in the West, the Lions in the North, and the Falcons in the South. I don't believe in the Falcons. They might make the playoffs, but if you had to think about it, like the NBA, they a playing team. They'll get there. It'll be great. It's a great story, but I don't believe and I don't put too much stock in the Falcons. And I think at the end of the day, my predictions is holding true so far through 8 weeks of the season. So I had for y'all that that haven't paid attention, that are new to the program. So I got the Jags and the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. Obviously, it's going to be played in Arrowhead. And I got the Eagles and the Seattle Seahawks in the NFC Championship game, and it's going to be played in Philly. The Seahawks, I believe, are 4-2 right now, and I still believe in them, just like a lot of the experts still believe in them. So I still am going to hold true. It's still holding true right now, and that's what I'm sticking with. as my two teams, and obviously I got the Birds and the Chiefs in the rematch for the Lombardi. But what I wanted to hit on is I wanted to really talk about. So for y'all who don't know, I've coached for 5 years collegiately. Edinboro University and Albright College. I started my career at Albright here in Reading, Pennsylvania, and then I ended up at Edinboro and I coached two All-American wide receivers and some freshman All-Conference wide receivers as well. So I kind of know what I'm talking about when it comes to the position. And I'm looking at these stats right now and just going down the list, top 5 in receiving yards. You got Tariq Hill at 902. A.J. Brown at 809, Puka Nacua at 752, and then you round out with Stephon Diggs, 678, and DJ Moore at 636. But I wanted to focus on A.J. Brown. And this is kind of biased because I'm an Eagles fan, but I mean, like, I watched this dude play now for a year and a half in Philly, and I didn't pay a lot of attention to him. Even going back to Ole Miss, I didn't pay a lot of attention to him. AJ Brown is a beast, yo. Like, and I mean, it's kind of like it's almost like so my philosophy on playing receiver, right? For all the youngins out here that are up and coming young wideouts trying to position themselves to potentially get a scholarship to play collegiate ball. But if you was to say I wanted you to coach my young son or whatever playing receiver, this is exactly what I would tell him. Playing wide receiver, first of all, like, think about the position. What is the number one goal for a receiver? It's to catch the football. And I always make the comparison that as a receiver, you should treat catching the ball like Steph Curry treats shooting a three-pointer. What you mean by that? Well, when you watch the Warriors play, Steph, when he shoots a three, it's effortless or Steffortless for some people who watch NBA on TNT. But it's effortless when he shoots a three. And he's so comfortable with doing it. Now, mind you, shooting a three-pointer is, for the average Joe and even for the average NBA player, it's a very difficult task and it's intimidating. That's the lowest percent shot in the NBA. And, not everybody can do it. Just like not everybody can catch a football. It's hard, especially like standing still. Yes, it's one thing, but having to do it on a run is a whole different thing. And every single time that I turn my TV on and watch an Eagles game and I watch A.J. Brown, he makes catching the football look effortless. And to me, like, that alone, first of all, we haven't had that in years. I mean, I can go down the list of receivers that the Eagles have had, from Dante Stallworth to Reggie Brown to and I'm talking about minus T.O. T.O. was a 1.5 year wonder, but Reggie Brown, Kevin Curtis, Dante Stallworth, Hank Baskett, and I go even farther, James Thrash, Todd Pinkston. Like, the Eagles never really had, outside of T.O., that really let me not say that, because then there was the D-Jack and Macklin era. Shout out to them. But even with them, they were more take the top off the defense guys. A.J. Brown, to me, this is just me talking, is when you look at, if you put him in that stratosphere of like great NFL wide receivers, there's no reason why he should not be in that conversation. I mean, just turn on the film. Double coverage, single coverage, catching the ball away from his body. You hardly ever see him making a catch with his body. It's always away from his body. And that's what I taught all my receivers. And yeah, Tariq Hill was great. You know what I'm saying? But Tariq Hill gets a lot of love because of the speed that comes with him, how he's able to create separation, which is amazing. But we just saw that he had a catch. Well, it was going in. It was in the red zone, and Tua threw him a pass, and he caught it, or it hit him right in the chest, and he dropped it. AJ Brown is not dropping that ball. AJ Brown literally catches the ball like he's making his he's making his bed. It's a daily operation for him. And it's crazy. So out of all those guys, I just named those guys because I pay attention to the receivers. AJ Brown to me is definitely top 5. He's definitely top 3. I would put I would definitely throw like Jamar in there and a healthy Justin Jefferson. But right now, AJ Brown, bro, he's doing things that, you know, it's, I mean, 5 straight games, 125 yards receiving. It's crazy. So yeah, I definitely shout out to AJ Brown, man. Shout out to all those guys. I mean, Cheetah's Cheetah, you know what he do. Now, I did take notes here on notable free agents. Now, I haven't looked up all the games, but I just saw these free agents and I'm looking at these guys and I'm looking at the names. And now that, you know, the trade deadline is coming up here, I'm just like, there's 3 names that I really wrote down. Lyle Collins, who's a tackle, who used to play for the Cowboys, you know, formerly one of the best tackles in the game. And I'm pretty sure there's a handful of teams that need that blindside protection. And he's 30 years old, so he still has something left. Shit, I'm 30. I ain't got nothing left, but he's in the NFL. I mean, I could get you a third down, but we're not gonna go into that. Leonard Fournette, who, you know, we all know who Leonard Fournette is, 28 years old, running back, formerly with the Bucks. I mean, somebody's got to have a need for a running back. I mean, I'm just looking at his name. And then Jarvis Landry. Like, people forget Jarvis Landry was Odell Beckham's OG. That was Odell Beckham's OG. Like, you know, one hand catches and all that. And like, you know what I mean? Like it's contagious, yo. It's contagious. Like that guy. Like, I didn't even know he was out the league. I thought he was still on the Saints. I mean, you know, these guys, and I saw a couple other guys, but those 3, I'm like, damn, like the NFL really is cutthroat. Like the best guys, the guys who we grew up with, I grew up with watching, you know what I'm saying, coming in, you know, as a youngster in this space. I mean, like, and me and Jarvis the same age, but like I'm saying, like he was at LSU and I was watching him, you know, with Odell, and it's like, damn, like these guys ain't getting like they're not getting no calls, none. Nobody wants Jarvis Landry. Nobody wants, you know, that third down. He could play third down. He could play in the slot. He's done it before, so it's crazy to see that. So that kind of threw me off too. Like, wow, like it's a lot of notable free agents, and you can look this stuff up. I mean, it's all online. I do want to give my early coach of the year, and I mean, I think to me it's obvious. It's got to be Dan Campbell with the Lions. You know, just with the job he's done, even going back to last year, I think he's definitely, you know, coach of the year right now if the season ended today. And before I leave today, obviously, I want to give you my picks. We did this a little bit during the season, but I'm gonna do it consistently on the pod. So I got 4 games that I want to give you. I'm gonna give you the games, the over under or the spread or the money line, and then we'll go from there. You know, again, I'm gonna say bet responsibly. First game is I got the New York Jets going. Well, I can't even say going because they play in the same damn stadium, which I think is hilarious. Like they'd be like, yeah, the Jets at the Giants. And I'm like, well, they play in the same fucking stadium. So it's not like it's, you know, at somebody. I mean, it's gonna be the same amount of fans either way. But the Jets playing the Giants. But the Giants are considered the home team. And I went with the under. The over under is 36.5 points, and I went with the under. You know, you're talking about Zach Wilson against Tyrod Taylor. It's not going to be a lot of points scored in this game. I think it's going to be a defensive heavy game. I'm thinking maybe a 20-13, which would give you 36, or 20-15, which would give you 35. I don't think either team is going to score over 20 points in this game. It's going to be a lot of 3-and-outs. It's going to be very boring, very defensive driven, probably a lot of field goals. You know, halftime might be like 10-6. And that's just, I feel like, how the game going to go. So I actually am going with the points here because I don't really know who to choose. So I'm going to just take the points and say it's going to be under 36.5 points. Next game, I got the Rams traveling to Dallas. Dallas is coming off a bye week. They're getting healthy. The Rams had a tough game last week against the Steelers and lost. And Dallas has some rest. I think Dallas is this is the part of the year where they kind of try to make a little bit of a statement, and they need to stay relevant. Dallas needs to stay relevant especially for them big games down the line against Philly, to compete for that NFC East. So I'm gonna actually take Dallas here. The points is the spread is 6.5, and I'm gonna take the spread on that. I think Dallas will at least win by 10. I got them winning at least by 10 in this game. So I'm gonna take them now. Cincy versus San Fran. At the beginning of the year, before everything was going on, you would have thought this would have been a great game, high scoring game, but Purdy's out with the concussion, Burrow. You never know what that calf is going to do. I think the Niners are pissed off. 2 straight losses, a bad loss last week against the Vikings. And I think this is going to be one of them surprisingly low scoring games. It's in San Francisco, but I think it's going to be they got the points at 45, and I'm going to take the under. I don't see them scoring a lot of points in this game, so I'm going to take the under on that. But I like San Fran to win. I think they're desperate for a win now. They're pissed off, and people are starting to doubt them. And it'll be an interesting game for that. And then my last one, I got KC going to traveling to Denver. Denver's the underdog by 7.5, and I actually like that. I like Denver. I don't know if I like them to win, but this is one of them games. I mean, you think about the NFL this season, weird stuff has happened. The Jets beating the Eagles, the Browns beating the 49ers, the Vikings beating the 49ers, like the Dallas getting smoked by San Francisco. I mean, it's been a wild season, you know what I'm saying, especially with like some of these like upset games. So I'm not gonna say Denver's gonna get a win. They did get a win last week. Offense is starting to come around. I think Kansas City is still trying to figure out who they are, but I mean, divisional game. I could see this. I could see this being a trap game for the Chiefs. I think that they'll come in thinking that this is going to be a cakewalk, and Denver is going to play them a little bit harder. They actually played a very close game last time they played, and it's in Denver. It's in Mile High, and I don't know. I think I'm gonna take the points on that. I'm gonna take Denver plus 7.5. I think if KC wins, it's gonna be a 27-23 or a 24-17 kind of, or 24-20 kind of game. One of those games, surprising game. So I'm gonna take Denver on that with that. So that's week 8 in the NFL. I do want to touch on some college here before we move on to some other things. Now, with college, I'm only going to really give you my top 10. I'll give you my Heisman, and then I do want to hit on some things with that. So here's my top 10 in this order, as far as the season so far. So I got UGA at 1, obviously. I got Michigan at 2. I got Washington at 3. Florida State at 4. Ohio State at 5. And Oregon at 6. Oklahoma at 7. I actually flipped this because I forgot they played each other. Texas is at 8, Alabama's at 9, and I left 10 open because I don't know. It's a toss up between Utah and Penn State. Penn State came off a bad loss against Ohio State, and I'm kind of salty about that because I actually took Penn State, and their offensive coordinator was still in the locker room when they came out. I don't know what the hell he was doing. And Utah has a big game against Oregon this week, who beat USC last week. So if Utah gets an upset against Oregon, they definitely are a top 10 team, and it's at home in Utah. And people are going to say, well, why is Washington your number 3 team? Well, because I think that the Pac-12 is as strong as it's ever been this season. They have the most notable win against Oregon, and their offense is playing at an extremely high level. And I think Washington, for the first time, to me, in a long time, even in the college football playoff era, has the talent to look Georgia, Michigan, or whoever's number 4 in the eye and play them. We looked at Cincinnati, we looked at TCU, was like, yeah, they're good, but we know what's going to happen. Washington can play, and Washington, to me, and that was my next point, Washington has the best quarterback to me in college football. I think that Penix Jr. he's the Heisman front runner. I like him to win the Heisman. He's the quarterback for Washington, and he wears the greatest number in sports, number 9. Which your boy wore number 9. You know what I'm saying? You know how that go. That's the best number in sports. So anybody wearing number 9, salute to y'all. He's the Heisman right now. He's been doing his thing, and I like Washington. I like him on offense. I watched the whole Washington Oregon game, and they nice. So I like Washington at 3. So that's my top 10. And then I wanted to touch on Colorado, Coach Prime. Obviously, I feel like it's necessary to talk about him. You know what I'm saying? I think this is they got a big game this week coming up. You know what I'm saying? They play UCLA, but it's not even about the season anymore with Dion. I think he needs to have a very strong off season. He needs to hit the portal hard. He needs to go out and get offensive linemen. He needs to go out and he's got to get some guys on the interior to help protect Shador. He's got to get some pass rushers. This is going to be the most important offseason in Coach Prime and his coaching career, his very early coaching career, because he's got the skill guys. He'll get the skill guys just because, receivers and guys that want to play with Shador, that want to play with Travis, that want to be, a part of that atmosphere. He's built them into a very marketable team, because we know nobody would care what Colorado was doing if he wasn't there. That's the Prime effect. But as far as recruiting, and if anybody knows the importance of recruiting, is me. He needs to have a very strong um recruiting offseason. And I mean from the interior standpoint. So he'll have to drop some of that NIL money, name, image, and likeness. He'll need to drop some of that bread on some of these offensive and defensive linemen, whether he's got to go get them from Florida or from Texas. That's where kind of the beef is at. Ohio, he'll have to try to pull some of them guys away. He might have to steal a few guys, but if he wants any chance of competing next year, and really, especially with the conference realignment, he'll have to really recruit, because it's not going to get any easier, and people are going to have a bullseye on him, especially next year. With 1 full year in his belt. So for me, for Coach Prime, it's simple: go out and recruit as many offensive and defensive linemen as you can get, and really coach them boys up, because you're going to need them to protect Shador. If Shador wants a chance to, be one of those guys next year, because we know he's coming back. It's a loaded quarterback class this year. He'll want to come back next year and, make a name and hopefully solidify that number 1 draft pick next year. So looking forward to that. So we spent about 30 minutes talking about sports. I did want to kind of go into a different situation here, and again, OTM Out the Mud podcast, with OTM Coach B. So what I also want to do is I want to speak on some current events. All right. I think that's necessary, especially in the times we're living in. I think that, it's important that, at least for the viewers, they understand, that this isn't just a sports podcast. This is a podcast where I want to touch on a lot of different topics. I want to be as informative as I can be, and all that. So, and actually, if you guys excuse me, I will take a quick little drink here before we get rolling. Appreciate that. So like I said before, I want to make sure that, this isn't just a podcast where we're just beating sports to death. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of viewers aren't going to be, sports folks. So the one thing I wanted to hit on, which is very close to my heart, is the mass shooting that happened in Maine a few days ago. It's been all over the news, and I feel like it's necessary that I do my due diligence to be as informative as I can from a perspective of somebody who's on the outside. Now, again, I'm going to preface my comments by saying that this topic, it does hit home, and I'm going to tell you why it hit home. It hits home because, let me take another drink. Give me 1 second, y'all. I don't want to get, dry, pause, dry throat. talking about this subject, because I'm just going to tell you right now, I am going to get a little bit worked up and animated. But it hits home for me with the mass shootings that happened in Maine, because I have a friend, a good friend of mine, who I won't say his name, but he's a good friend of mine. We coach together. He's a resident of the state of Maine, and when I heard about this situation, he was the first person I thought of. I reached out, luckily, and thank God he's okay. There was nothing happened to him, his family, the whole bit. So that's great. So thank God for that. But what I really wanted to touch on, because I wanted to read and thoroughly read just the backstory on this whole situation. And I took some notes, and I took some snippets of some things, and some articles online. And all these are literally from the websites. But I wanted to touch on this subject because, first of all, we understand that this world isn't a safe place. It's not a safe place. It's been said for years. This world is not a safe place. There's killings every day. Somebody's dying every single day. There's shootings, mass shootings every day, so on and so forth. And reading up on this topic, we talked about mental health. Well, mental health is obviously and excuse me for looking down. I'm trying to make sure that I keep this article open. Mental health is a big thing. Mental health is a huge topic of discussion in the world today, rightfully so. And I'm glad it's a topic of discussion because it's important. I went through my own mental health situations. I know that my viewers have, their families have. So it's all important. But here's why this subject and this particular event was so important that I felt like I needed to jump on here and really talk about it in depth. So if you didn't know and you didn't read up on it, or if you didn't hear about it, which you should have because it was all over the news, there was a mass shooting that took place in Lewiston, Maine, and it was a mass shooting Wednesday night. The gentleman's name Robert Card, who is a former Army reservist, shot up two places. One was a bowling alley in Lewiston, where at the time there was a young people there, kids who were having a bowling league, and the other was at a bar and grill, Schmeggy's. Both happened, and both were about 4 miles from each other. And this all happened Wednesday night, killing 18 people, and another 13 were injured. Now, we hear about this story all the time. We hear about this practically almost every single month, sometimes twice a month. We hear about there's a mass shooting somewhere. Now, I wanted to read a little bit just to kind of preface the comments to kind of get some dialogue on what exactly was going on. So I pulled this article from MSNBC, and the article states that this gentleman, Robert Card, he was an Army reservist, and the reports were showing that he was dealing with some mental health issues. The mental health issues stemmed from, we don't know if they didn't really go into detail if it was from his previous past in the Army, or they did say that all they said was that he had been hearing voices in his head to inflict harm, that people were out to get him. But this is where it really kind of got interesting, and I kind of like turned my eye up when I was reading. So one of the police interviewed his sister-in-law, Katie O'Neill, and they did an interview with her, which basically she stated the following. She said that she spoke with Robert. Now, mind you, this has been going on. His mental health and everything has been going on for about a year. But this is what she said. She said he would get mad and claim that we didn't believe him. We tried to listen to him and tell him nobody was talking to him. O'Neill said of her brother-in-law. She said also that the family has been worried that Card has been struggling with mental health issues, and that she said he went to them and insisted to his family that he can hear people bashing him in his head, and that he sought out these two places, the bowling alley and the Schmeggy's bar, where the 18 people ended up being gunned down. So here's where I stand on that. Is, for one, when I read it, I had to pause for a second because I had to read it over again, that they interviewed his sister-in-law and she gave a report stating that he went and literally spoke to his family about these issues that he was having. And they were aware of the situation. And the things that I took out of this article is that, for one, that she went on to state that he's been struggling with mental health issues, and that it also has been going on for a year. Mind you, this guy's an Army reservist, a former Army reservist. She said it's been going on for a year, and that these issues resulted in him spending a weeks-long stay at a facility over the summer. So I took a lot of those parts of the interview out, and I said, okay, a year's long, they've known about this. So this has been 365 days that they've known about him having these issues and having these causes affecting his mental health, and that he's been wearing stronger hearing aids to deflect the voices that's been in his head. So you knew about this for a year. Then it goes on to say that he's an Army reservist, and that he's trained in firearms. He's a firearms specialist for the Army. So he's highly skilled in shooting firearms. So you knew about this for a year. He's a skilled Army specialist in firearms. And he's telling his family that he's going through these traumas, and he's hearing these voices in his head. And this has been going on for a year. So then what I did was I said, you know what? Let me look up the word accomplice. I'm going somewhere. Because what I want to know is if you, and excuse me if I'm kind of bouncing around, but I'm going somewhere with this, because what I did was I looked at the definition of an accomplice, and the definition states that an accomplice is defined as a person who knowingly, voluntarily, or intentionally gives assistance to another, or in some cases fails to prevent another from the commission of a crime. So you have a sister-in-law who's been interviewed and has verbally stated, it's in the article, that this man has went to his family, stating that he's going through these traumas, stating that he hears these voices, and you know that he is a specialist in using firearms. He's a former Army reservist. He's going to you insisting, that's the word in the article, he's insisting that he's hearing these voices. And for a year, which my math may not be math, and I know you got to count in a leap year, but a year is 65 days, 365 days. You knew about this trauma that he was having, and you didn't speak on it. Or you didn't go to the authorities and you didn't say, I think that I may have a family member that's going through these situations and I feel like he could harm himself or harm others. Is there anything that we can do? Is there any other protection? Can you go to his crib? Can you go and check on him, do some, checkups or anything. You didn't do any of that. Yet this man goes into a bowling alley with young kids and children and families and kills however many people he killed, probably, and definitely with some kids, and then proceeded to go 4 miles down the block to another bar where people were trying to enjoy their time and killed them. And you knew that he was going through these traumas and you didn't speak on it. So in my right mind, why should I not sit up here and say that when they catch him, because he's still at large, he's still roaming around somewhere in Maine and he will be caught? Why shouldn't I not in my right mind say that when they arrest him, they should arrest y'all too? Why shouldn't I say that? The definition of an accomplice is right there. I'm going to read it again. An accomplice is defined as a person who knowingly, voluntarily, or intentionally gives assistance to another or of some cases fails to prevent another from the commission of a crime. You knew this man was going through this for a year. It ain't like you just found out. You knew for a year, and you didn't do anything to seek him some help to prevent this from happening. You didn't go in his crib. You didn't get all the rifles and the pistols and the knives and everything you could out of his house to prevent him from doing this. You couldn't check him into a facility to make sure that he got the help he needed that was longer than just a week in the summertime. You knew this was going to happen. So guess what? Now that this is happening, not only is the blood on his hands, it's on y'all too. And y'all should pay for it. So if you're going to arrest this dude, Robert Card, you need to go and arrest the family too. Because they knew exactly what he was capable of. They knew exactly what he was going through and did nothing about it. And now the 18 people who got to mourn the loss of their loved ones have got to suffer. So guess what? I'm going to make an example out of y'all, and y'all need to suffer too. Because that doesn't make any sense. And then you go on, and then I go on to read down the line. Let me pull this up here, because honestly, this is unbelievable to me. It goes on to read that again. So this is all from the interview. He would get mad and claim that we didn't believe him. We tried to listen to him and tell him that nobody was talking about him. So you were just basically giving him the, oh man, he's just crazy. That's just a crazy family member. He don't matter. It's just Robert. He don't care. He's just crazy. And it goes on to say that she said that her family is worried because Card has been struggling with mental health issues, which resulted in a weeks-long stay at a facility, and things have gone downhill recently. And then there's this quote in here from his sister, Katie O'Neill, saying, "We know he is out there and he is a good person in his heart," O'Neill said. "After all of this, when he has time to reflect, he will be disgusted. We all want to know that we want him to know that we love him and that we can handle things as a family." So why can you handle things as a family now that 18 people are dead, but you couldn't handle family things when that man was telling y'all that he was going through this? See, this is the problem, because too many times we look at, especially like our family members, and we giving them the, yo, he's just crazy. He just, that's just uncle, whatever. And that's just auntie such and such and cousin such and such. But you don't understand what these people are really going through. And then now the blood is on your hands. Because you want to sit up here and now you want to text him and you want to reach out to him, and now he's such a great person. Well, if he was such a great person, why the hell didn't y'all get that? Why didn't y'all get that man some help when he was telling y'all he was going through that? Why didn't y'all get that man some help when he was telling y'all he was going through that? That doesn't make sense to me. Because again, it hits home for me because I got a friend in Maine right now that, thank God he's okay, but what if that was him? What if you killed my homie? Because your family members was too stupid and too oblivious to this whole mental health thing that everybody's talking about all the time to go and ask that man if he was okay. Now 18 people are no longer on this earth, and their families got to deal with that and got to mourn with that and grieve with that. Forget the whole gun laws thing, because I read up on some things about Maine. First of all, Maine, if you don't know, Maine is one of the, and it's been recorded, it's documented, Maine is one of the safest places to live in the United States. They just did a poll on it last year that Maine is the number one safest place to live in the United States. They got gun laws everywhere. But their gun laws are very watered down. They call it the yellow flag law because it's kind of like we'll just bridge it. We'll just put a cover over it, because they don't have that fear in their heart that anything is going to happen because it's Maine. But yet you got a guy who went to his family telling them that he was going through something, and they turned a blind eye to it. And now they want to have a pity party because he laid 18 people down for no reason, because he was hearing voices. And he told y'all that a year ago. You didn't know about it yesterday or a week ago. You knew about it for a year, and you didn't say anything. So I'm going to say it again. They are an accomplice, just as he is the one that did the crime. So when they find this man, Robert Card, I'd arrest his family too. Everybody involved, because you knew exactly what he was going through for an entire year, and you didn't speak on it. You didn't speak on it. And now you got 18 people who have to mourn the loss of a family member. And now you're sitting here trying to plead that he's a great person. He probably was a great person. He served in the Army. Yeah, thank you for your services and all that. But he probably was a great person. But when you deal with mental health and you're going through a situation and you're hearing voices in your head, you're no longer that great person. There's something that is taking over your body, and now you're succumbed to that voice. And you knew about it and you didn't speak on it. So y'all should pay the price. I'm not saying they should do life or any of that, because he's going to do life. He's gone. He's out of here. Pack him up. When they find him, because they will find him, he's gone. But the family, Katie O'Neill, whoever else is involved, y'all need to pay too. There needs to be a disciplinary action on y'all, because you knew what he was going through for a year and you didn't speak on it. You didn't take action. If a family member comes to me and they tell me they're going through mental issues or they going through X, Y, and Z, I'm going straight to the authorities. There's no question. They can hate me all they want to, but I'd rather them hate me on the outside than hate me on the inside. When I say the inside, I mean prison. Because if I know that they're capable of doing something crazy to themselves or to somebody else, if I could save a life or two, I'm going to do that. But y'all played stupid, like, oh, he's just crazy Robert. He don't know what he's talking about. And now he done laid 18 people down, and now y'all want to sit up here and y'all want to get some Dear Abbeys and talk about he need to just return himself and he's a great person. Forget that. That's bullshit. Y'all should have said something to that man when he walked in your house over the year and said, yo, I'm going to get you some help. I'm going to make sure we check you into a facility. I'm going to raid your house and get all your guns, weapons, knives, whatever that you can harm yourself or somebody else. We're going to get all that until you get yourself together and get better. Because now what's going to happen is he's going to get better locked up in Rikers somewhere. And guess what? He ain't going to make it in there either, because you're going to meet some cousins and some unks and some OGs that know what you did, and they're gonna get you up out of here in prison. So it's going to end bad regardless. But this is a good message for anybody that's dealing with mental health, or if you're a family member of somebody dealing with mental health. Do not hesitate. If you know you got signs that something's off, whether it be with you or be with somebody you know, you do not hesitate. Go and get them or yourself checked out, or get multiple eyes on them, because guess what? You're saving lives. You're saving lives. My condolences to those people, to everyone that lost somebody, in that shooting. Like I said, I had a friend out there, thank God he's okay. But we got to do better as people, man. We got to do better as people, because time is not going to wait. Time is not going to wait for nobody. It's not going to wait for nobody. So, if you need help, say it. But this is OTM the podcast. We're going to do a lot more of these. Appreciate y'all for tuning in tonight. Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms. Again, I'm OTM Coach B, man, signing off.